Hi guys, we're back with another show of We Are the Girls in Claret and Blue. I am joined back with my regular co-host Reese, who but we do thank Kate for stepping in last week. She did
Yeah,
very well.
yeah. Thanks to Kate. I was scared for my job by the end of that show.
Yeah, she won't be coming back on that one. So we have a lot to talk about, especially with the game that happened last Sunday. So we are going to go straight into that one. We're talking about the Reading game. I'm sure, Reese, you have a lot of opinions about that one.
Yeah, well, obviously I do. I think for the first 60 to 70 minutes, it was some of the best football we've played as a collective unit. Not only this season, but I think under Matt as a whole, and since we've been in the WSL. I felt like Lehman was back firing. And what I was really impressed with was that Kiernan and Lehman seemed to be switching with that centre forward role. I felt like that worked really well. Reading couldn't cope with our pace. That's why they were committing so many fouls. Um, and in the end, we actually did frustrate them so much in the first half that one of their players retaliated, and I think she pushed Cavani and got sent off.
Yeah.
And then second half, I felt like we were more or less doing the same thing in frustrating them. I think we got the second goal
Yeah.
in the second half. Yeah, Kiernan, and credit to Leanne actually, because I actually really liked the way she came over and celebrated with the main stand.
Yeah.
I know Emma said to Kate after the game that when players come off or score, they should celebrate with the fans or clap as they come off because that will help build the community feel around both sides. So I felt like that was a nice touch. But then I think in the last 20 minutes, we actually played our worst defensive football
Mm-hmm.
under Matt Beard. It just all went to pot. And I remember saying to, I think it's Vinny who sat in front of me on Sunday that for them 60 minutes, I was actually proud of how well we were playing, and they made you feel proud as a supporter to support that team. And then that all the pride went out the window. I felt like the defence, the pace of Reading centre forward played a massive factor. I felt like defensively we was out of shape, and I think we actually got too confident against them that we wasn't even keeping our simple shape that we did so well in the first half. But now, when you look at recent form, you look how we've gave away that game, which would have been a massive 3 points.
Yeah.
You start to get worried now.
Absolutely. The fact we couldn't capitalise on Reading going down to 10 men and hold on to that lead, score another couple of goals. It's concerning. It is concerning. I think I don't know, is it form? Is it that we are injury stricken? Is there some sort of disharmony going on in the camp that's playing mind games? I don't know what it is, but we should have put that game to bed. When they went down to 10 men, we should have put that game to bed, and we didn't. And I spoke to Brooke after the game because I was standing. Her mother came over to say hi, and we were chatting. And then she came over to talk to her mum, and she was saying that people were panicking. Like we were 2 goals up after 60 odd minutes, and the defense was panicking. The midfield was panicking. The strikers just couldn't quite get their shots off. And she was like, "Why aren't we calming down? We should have slowed that game right down." And like I said, put the game to bed, and we just didn't.
I mean, I think a next step as a team is becoming a ruthless side, because ruthless sides put Reading to bed when they're down to 10.
Yeah.
Simple as. But not only that, we do need to manage games better because if you're 2-0 up against 10 players and then you slip away not only a 2-goal lead, but you end up losing, you actually do have to question the game management right now.
Yeah.
And well, I think it was Brooke that said to you that we were panicking. I think that could have maybe came up of the pressure of getting a win, and also the pressure of being at home and having to give something back, maybe to the fans after the defeat to Manchester City. So if pressure's um, playing a factor in games, that does make you worry now, because I feel like they're now going to be under more pressure this week against Manchester United.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Honestly, I can't tell you what it was. It just, we went to pieces, and we played worse in those last 30 minutes than we did under Man United, and we lost Man City rather, and we lost 5-0 to Man City. We just something like 6 minutes, 6 to 10 minutes, we went from 2-0 up to 3-2 down. And something has got to change, and I don't know quite what it is. Don't want to speculate, but judging by certain people's social media posts, it looks like there is some discord going on in the camp. I don't want to speculate what that is, but they need to get it together, and just otherwise, we are so lucky that Birmingham and Liverpool are worse than us. And if it was 2 people going down, we would be in that relegation battle.
I mean, it's funny you mention Birmingham now, because I remember it was the second game of the season. We beat them 1-0, but we were quite lucky to win. And I think now, looking back at that, I think that game really gave us the warning signs that we should have looked at, and that 1-0 win maybe was the paper over the cracks.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what more we can do. Like you said, first 60 minutes, we played fantastic. It was the best football I've seen us play ever. And like, we were worthy for being 2-0 up. And I don't know if Reading's over physicality had messed with our system. I don't know, because if we are injury bound and so we're missing players, but something's got to give.
I mean, the worrying thing as well is if we do find ourselves in a relegation battle come January, are we going to be able to bring in players? Because it's not only about bringing in players, it's about bringing in the right players, which I think Matt did so well last year with Cho and Adriana.
Yeah.
So I think if we can do that again, then maybe we can pull ourselves out of this scrap. But I think, looking on the performance as well against Reading, I think what their centre forward did well is use her pace, and I think sometimes coming towards the end of our game, our defence does lack a bit of that pace.
Yeah. So we have to talk about the incident of the game, which was the Reading red card. The play. So what do you think happened there? Because we were just sat back, and then suddenly you saw the scrap, ref gives the red, and you're like, what happened?
Well, I've seen the incident now. I think it was a strong challenge on one of their players, and I think it was their number 3. I think it was their right back.
Yeah.
Came over to Cavani and pushed her so hard she actually nearly fell to the floor, which gave her the red card. I think normally that would have been a yellow, but because of the reaction of Cavani and the force she used, the referee gave her a red.
Yeah, because I've seen the video back, and I mean, if you look at from a certain angle, it looks like she's going for the throat. Like, it's that full on thing. Because she was fouled. Let's be honest, she was fouled, and I think she was fouled by Van Cammy. Van Cammy's come over to see if she's okay. Because to be honest, it would have been a yellow for Van Cammy, that foul. And she's just reacted really badly and just gone for the throat. But it's just such a rare occurrence. But we're starting to see more and more plays like that from different teams, and I'm not quite sure where that's come from.
See, but I really like that in a player. To react like that, it shows passion about the team they're playing for, and the passion for the game. And I think sometimes you actually need more of that. Maybe not with the force she used. So I think that was a bit too much. But if you look at the course of the game, that actually showed the passion them Reading players have. They have a great captain in Farah, and I felt like she actually did really, really well, because in the first half, she kept on nagging in the referee's ears at every foul, no matter if it was given to them or not. And I think towards the end of the game, that played a massive factor in the referee's performance, because to me, he looked hesitant to give away a foul against Reading. But as soon as a Reading player went down, not only did he give a foul, but he gave one of our players a yellow card. And I think this is on to my next talking point, because I personally think, I know this is a very strong statement, but that referee was an embarrassment on Sunday. I felt like he lost complete control over that game. And he, like I said, I think he let some players get into his head. And as a referee, I don't think you can do that, especially to the higher standards of this level. It's a professional league, but we haven't got professional referees. I mean, half of these referees I'm seeing on a Saturday refereeing a semi-professional game at step 4, in the men's game. So there has to be more funding. And I think we had this discussion before, Ali, and it was a referee said it's the easiest 40 quid you're ever going to get. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the trouble is the clubs are having to pay for these referees, but why don't the FA step in, help these clubs, and they pay the referees like I think they do in the Premier League?
Yeah, and we're not saying that we need like the ref, like Anthony Friend or anything like that.
No, we definitely don't need the Premier League referees.
But we're saying, but Championship refs, people that are accustomed to ref in high league football, because this ref clearly wasn't. Honestly, his lino wasn't. Like the linos either side gave an offside, didn't even look, wasn't even looking at the player, just automatically just gave a thing. We saw it where they gave a throw into Reading, again, didn't even look to see if the ball had gone out. Kernan had actually managed to keep it in, didn't even look, thought it had gone out, just gave a throw into Reading. But we'll definitely touch back onto the reffing standards. But I want to talk about the aggression that we're seeing more and more in women's football. I agree with you to a point in the fact that it does show passion, it does show thing, but at the same time, it's not the right behaviour. It's just becoming more and more aggressive. Like we saw it in Kira Walsh with that tackle in the derby, which got her a red card. We saw it in Stanway against us, which got her a red card. And it's just getting more and more physical. And I'm not quite sure that's the right way to go. We used to be a tactical kind of game, and now it just seems to be, let's push people over, let's go studs up and see what we're going to get. And we're going to end up with more broken legs. Basically, we're going to end up with more Drew Spencers in the league.
With aggression, though, it's almost the way you use it. I mean, if you're using it in an intent to hurt the player, then that is completely and utterly wrong. But sometimes players use a bit of aggression just to wind the other player up and get into their heads. And I think sometimes, like I've just said, you need that. But the trouble is, as well, with if players are using that aggression on the pitch, some fans might start to think it's acceptable to use aggression off it.
Exactly.
And that's what the women's game doesn't have, and it doesn't need. And that's a lot, and that's a massive reason why the women's game is actually gaining fans, because not a lot of fans can stand going over to the men's games and seeing all the fights and the punch ups that they see. So the FA maybe do need to put a marker down early on it. But from what they said on refereeing, they're going to review it next season. I think they'll be reviewing maybe that as well at the end of the season. Yeah. But if the FA don't cut out, as we've seen in the men's game, they don't cut it out early enough, it will turn into something that's so big they can't handle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I'm all for passion. Like you see it with Gilly and Kate, and they go for it, and I'm all about that. But it's more like the quick reactions. Like we saw, it was
Yeah.
Rose that ended up getting sent off, and the fact that her reaction was to shove another player down. I'm not liking it.
I think some of this does as well come from tactical fouling. Seeing a lot more of that. I think it's actually interesting you mentioned Manchester City, because Guardiola's men's team, the way they play does have an influence throughout the whole of Manchester City.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Man City women are actually starting to do this in games. So I think a lot of it is tactical fouling, but I feel like because sometimes the opposition players ain't used to this, it is getting them rolled up and it's making them use this aggression, maybe like we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, back to the joyful topic of referees. I actually had this conversation with Pete, who is watching now, about the fact the standard has been better this season. It's been better than we've seen for a long time in the women's game, but it's still not up to scratch. It's still nowhere near good enough, and it's even for the top level, like we saw in the England-Germany game, who with the Stephanie Lampard, I believe her name is, who didn't give a red for a very bad foul on Beth Mead. Like, Beth Mead was down for a long time, and it could have been a career-ending tackle because it could have broken her leg the way it was, and the ref didn't even give a yellow. Or he gave a yellow, didn't give a red. And it's like, what does a player need to do in the women's game to get a red?
Yeah.
Because we were calling for a lot of cards in the Reading game that just weren't coming.
I think as well, this will actually make quite a bit of a statement, Ali. On a Saturday, like we go all across the country, and the manager of the team I do media for in the men's game actually said the best two referees we've had this year have been female. So I think now what the women's game needs to do in the FA is actually appoint these women referees in the women's game and let them actually be professional as well.
Yeah,
because I felt like I think we had a women's referee as well at Rushgreen, and she was brilliant, you know. So if we can make these women's referees professional, and not only that, have a selection of referees they use week in, week out like they do in the Premier League, they're not only going to improve the refereeing standards for me, is I think they'll actually improve as well the relationship between the referees and the players, because they're having these referees week in, week out, and the referees will have a better understanding of both teams going into a match day.
Absolutely, because I don't want to sound condescending and I don't want to sound stereotypical, but a lot of issues we've had is with the male refs is that they have a lot of the "oh, never mind, she didn't mean it" mentality. If anybody's got a subscription to the Athletic, there's a brilliant article in there about the refereeing standards and why they're reluctant to give cards. But it's a lot of condescension. You hear it a lot where especially last season, I remember there was this one ref who would always call them Miss whatever their surname was, and I remember Rafa was going for a throw-in and she'd gone a bit too far forward, and he's like, "Now back up a little bit, Miss Rafferty," and I'm like, wow, like are you going into men's games going, "Now back up, Mr. Noble"? I don't think you are. And it does seem to be a lot of, I don't know, with the men's refs, they do seem to be very sort of like still in the mind frame of, oh, bless, women are playing football, isn't that great? And very reluctant to give cards and things like that, and not treating it as seriously as maybe they should.
See, I totally agree with that, because like I said, I've actually seen some of these referees on a Saturday, and I think I know the referee you're on about.
Thank you.
with the Miss Rafferty, and he was actually telling the men's players on our team to shut up. So there we go. There's a bit of
and he wasn't doing that, was he? Like, that's what I mean. You probably do know what I mean, and it's it's that sort of, we want an equal standing. We want an equal standing in the game as it's played, and to do that, we need just better refs, because the refs we've got are not up to par. They're not.
I mean, it's just like you've said, Ali. Refereeing is, people underrate how much refereeing does come from the mindset. And if the referee's coming in with this factor of, oh, women are playing football, it will affect their decisions no matter what you say.
Yeah.
And if there's a dangerous challenge going in, and then he thinks, oh, look at that,
Yeah.
then there's not going to be the right judgment. And then players may think, well, if that tackle is acceptable, I'm going to do exactly the same thing.
Exactly. And that's how you end up with like Pauline Bramer's leg break. That's how you end up with Kim Little's leg break. Like, it's not good for the game. It just is going to end up in far more injuries. And looking at our squad on Sunday, they were battered, bruised, and everything else.
Yeah.
And that's just going to end up more. Pete said, I thought the ref v West Ham was good personally. Are you on about the Man City game, Pete, or are you on about the game against Reading? Because he was very much against us and very much for Reading.
I mean, to sum that ref up on Sunday, I really now get riled up over referee, because I've seen so much crap from him on a Saturday, but he really did wind me up. I mean, Ali will back that decision after the game, where I was so wound up I wouldn't even speak.
Yes, he could not speak to me, and he was like, it's going to end up badly. But it was also, you know, it was little things that he was doing. Like, for a fact, if Reading had a throw in, he let them take so much yardage.
I mean, do you remember the incident for the first yellow card? I'm pretty sure Reading committed 7 fails.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we committed one, he gave us a yellow card.
Yeah, we were raging. We were raging. Like, we had to be telling my dad to shut up because he was getting very vocal against the ref. Like, don't do that, shut up.
Well, the group we normally sit with, one of them was getting so riled up that the stewards were actually looking at her at one point, and I thought she was going to get kicked out.
Right. Onwards and upwards. This Sunday, it's a biggie. It's us versus Man United. We've
Your
only
favourite team.
We've only played them once, and unfortunately, that was a loss in the Conti Cup quarters. What do we need to do going in?
Pretty simple. We need to play more of the football we played for the first 70 minutes against Reading, and really cut out the sloppy 20 minutes we had. Because if we play like that, the last 20 minutes against Reading, against Manchester United, it won't be 3-2. It will be 5 or 6-0. So we need to really shore up that defence. We need to watch them mistakes we made in that last 20 minutes this week, review them, and look at how to improve them. But on Manchester United, they're on a good run of form themselves. It's going to be a tough game, but I feel like as well, because Manchester United fans ain't really popular in the women's game, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of passion from the stands, and I feel like this could be actually a really entertaining game. And looking at the way both sides play, I actually think this could go down as the best game of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we're both very physical teams. I know from what I've seen from Man United, they are as well. They've got a lot of cracking players. You know, you've got Kirsty Hansen, you've got Lauren James, they've got a good goalie in Mary Earps. So it's going to be an interesting head-on game, I think. You're right. Man United fans are very well known. I think that's going to be, I'm being polite. I think that's going to play into how the happens, really. We've got to be just as vocal. Like, we've got to be screaming, shouting. We want our girls to hear that we are behind them just as much as the Man United fans are behind them.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of this game will actually bow down to the factor of game management. It's going to be a very tight game. So I feel like in the last 20 minutes, the management of whoever's maybe 1-0 up or 2-1 up is going to be a really important factor. But I feel like from last week's games against Lewis and Reading, something I haven't mentioned is Bunach has been absolutely superb as a wing back. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't a massive fan of her at right back in a back four. But since she's been in that back five, she's actually turned into one of my favourite players. I think she's superb.
Yeah.
She goes up and down the wings. She makes the right tackles. She knows when to cross the ball. She knows when to pull it back to midfield. And actually, she's been the player we've been missing while we was making all these mistakes playing out from the back. And this is the formation we've been missing all season.
Yeah.
So I'd play the exact same system again. And not only Bunach, I think Kavami, she's really fired up under this role. And I feel like Hendricks, Vetterlane and Flaherty, as a whole collective unit, have really been strong. We've got Hendricks, which really calms the game down when it needs to. And then we've got two ball playing centre backs in Flaherty and Vetterlane. And not only that, I said in the stands against Lewis, I think Lehmann's got the making of a centre forward. I felt like when she played there against Reading, she played really well. So I'd actually probably go for a 5-3-2 with both Kiernan and Lehmann up front, because I feel like we're playing really well under that system.
I agree. And our resident neutral fan, Pete, has done me a massive favour by giving me a lot of stats for this upcoming game. And it's funny that you should say that we need to keep playing as we did for 60, 70 minutes, because Man United have scored most of their goals in the 75th to the 90th minute. He's also put in here brackets, typical Man United. But so that's the thing. So we've got to hit them early, and then we've got to defend. Funny enough, we've managed to score most of our goals between 60 and 75 minutes. Apparently, we don't really like scoring in the first half.
Well, that's an interesting stat, because then that backs up what we've been saying about being a ruthless side, because a ruthless side will score any time throughout that. And when we really needed that third goal in the last 15 minutes on Sunday, ultimately that cost us. So that's actually a really interesting fact.
Yeah, Pete did all the hard work, so I didn't have to. My other favourite fact he's come up with me is United have 5 goalies in their squad, nearly as many as they have midfielders, which is 6. So that's probably one of my favourite stats, is the how many goalkeepers, after all the grief we gave Chelsea last season having 4 goalkeepers.
Well, Man United have got to beat somebody at everything, haven't they?
Hopefully not us on Sunday. Of course, it is the return of ex-Hammer Jane Ross. I
think there'll be some booze in the stands this week for her.
Do you think with her?
Yeah, because what you mentioned earlier in the season, that she had a discussion with a fan. Maybe I think she said she might be leaving.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to play a factor in the stands.
Yeah, well, it was rumoured for a long time, and then the thing is, you can hear rumours, and most of them do come to fruition.
Well, talking about rumours, I was listening to a TalkSport interview with Enya Luco today.
I knew this was coming up.
And a new club is in London, so I'm absolutely praying it's West Ham, because I can't see Arsenal or Chelsea, especially Chelsea.
I don't think she should go back to Chelsea. I don't think she should go to Arsenal, because she won't get game time in Arsenal.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Tottenham or it's going to be us if she's going top flight. I think she said in the interview she is going top flight because it's the best league in the world. So it's Tottenham, to be honest. And she knows Matt Beard. She has worked with Matt Beard. He coached her at Chelsea. It was the last years of her first stint at Chelsea, his first years managing Chelsea. I believe that's the right way round. So her and Matt Beard do go way back. So it's a possibility. And also her and Gilly go way back from their Chelsea days. So it's very possible that it might be us.
You're getting me really excited here.
I'm hoping it is, to be honest, because Ennie's a cracking player. Like, politics aside, and I was always very much on her side with that. She was one of the top scorers in the league when she played in our league. She's managed to get Juve 3 trophies in her time over there. You'd be a fool not to have her in the squad. You really wouldn't. I'm hoping we are punching for her, that we are getting up there, and that we do beat Tottenham to it, because she is a phenomenal player. It could be the missing link.
And another thing as well is having her, if we do get her, because she's such a role model for players. It could really step up the ante in performances and making a claim for the shirt, and also players that are brilliant right now, but are just about to get to the next level in our team, like Lehmann and Thomas, even Adriana Leon. They can learn so much from her, and I feel like we'd improve as a team with her around the squad.
So yeah, so here's hoping that is a transfer rumour that comes true. So finally, on this Man United game, we've got to play like we did for the first 60, 70 minutes against Reading. They are a very, very physical side, so we need to make sure we don't lose our head, because they. I remember when we played them in the Conti Cup, they would barge you out the way. They were.
Did he hit the post twice that night?
Yep. Kate Longhouse did it, and I can't remember who the other one was. That was a very controversial night, because their first goal was I can't remember if it was. Oh no, they fouled a player in the run up to their first goal, and the ref never gave the foul.
Was it Kate they failed, and then I think they went 1-0 up, and then Kate was really having a go at the referee while they were celebrating. Yeah,
yep, that's definitely that. And then the controversial Brooke red card. Which I don't think, I get it, right? She landed on Lauren James and stamped on her back, and so she got a retrospective red card. I get it. However, Brooke was falling over. Where was she supposed to plant her leg? She literally was trying to steady herself to make sure she didn't go down. So that was yeah.
Well, you know what some of the referees are like at this level. The referee probably thought she should have hopped over that night.
Yeah, exactly. So I know for a fact that here we go. Pete says that the new Birmingham City Brum were always very physical and left the foot in. That's very true, because Jeff Carter used to play for Birmingham, and I remember going to watch them play Man City, and she barged Nikita Paris out the way. Nikita almost ended up on the third runway. But they are a very physical side, and so I think it's going to be a case of making sure we all keep cool and we don't lose our heads, because I think that could end up being. My thought is Gilly. I'm just thinking of Gilly and Kate going up against Martha Harris and Lauren James, and I'm thinking this could be a very, very interesting game.
What do you make of Manchester United as a whole, Ali, since coming into the league after their first few months?
I think they're a brilliant side, you've got to give credit where credit's due. They've managed to build up their squad. They've got a good, clean squad in the fact that every player plays the right role. They've attracted some great talent from Birmingham with Hayley Ladd. They've got Jackie over from the Netherlands, and they've really done well, and I am impressed with what they've done. Not that impressed with the attitude from some of the players and manager and fans, I'm not gonna lie. Hated playing with them because sorry, he's making fun of the fact that Paris got knocked over by Jess Carter. I'm not happy with that. It's the fact that it's the victim mentality. I'm not going to lie. It's the fact that if you say anything against them, it's because you hate us. No, it's just I don't agree with certain things. No, it's because you hate us. It's everybody hates us because we're Man United. Everybody hates us. And it is. If you read the tweets, it's very much a case of everybody hates because we're Man United. I'm like, no, it's just I applaud what you've done, and their fan group. I give them full credit for turning out the games in and out. Lee is in the middle of nowhere. Take it from someone who lives up north. Lee is in the middle of nowhere. It is the biggest city that doesn't have a train station or the biggest town that doesn't have a train station. You have to go to Wigan or Bolton. And the fact that they can get regularly set 2,000 people turning out for that, I have to give them full credit for that. Like, fair play. If someone says something against you, it doesn't mean because they hate you. Let's just make that clear.
God.
Yeah, you've got me started now.
Yeah, I've wound Ali up here a bit scared now. But talking on their manager, for me, I've actually been quite surprised on how well Casey seemed to have been doing. But I think maybe their main target this year will be maybe a bit like ours last year, on going on a bit of a cup run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they want an FA Cup final, and I can see them getting it. To be honest, they are a very focused side, and they beat, I think it was Leicester, to be fair, 11-0 or 11-1, I think it was, in their Conti Cup fixture, and they want a cup. They want to win trophies, and Stoney wants to win trophies. She needs to prove that leaving the England setup was the right decision. So they are. I think they're going to look for a high place in the league, and they're going to look for a cup run, which is going to then allow them to get more players further up to boost themselves for next season.
Do you think as well, though, because of the stature of Manchester United, the same with any team, is maybe a bit like Pochettino, if Casey keeps on doing well in the league but doesn't start to win trophies, do you think that could have a bowing factor in maybe a new contract at some point?
Yeah, no, I know she's just re-signed, but you're right. I think it is going to be a case of both the fans and the club are going to start expecting trophies. They absolutely annihilated the championship last season. Granted, they were the only fully professional team, but they only lost once in that whole season. So I think the club is going to expect a return on their investment. They're going to expect higher profile players, and they're going to expect trophies and also league wins and things like that.
Right. Well, that's enough about talking about Manchester United now.
One last, just quick story, just because it's my favourite story. I was at an England game. It was England, Norway, I believe. Was it Norway we played? Might have been Denmark. England, Denmark. At Warsaw. I can't remember which one it was. It was at Warsaw. And Pernille Harder came out and signing autographs and stuff like that. And one of the Man United fans was like, "Oh, Pernille, when you coming to Man United?" And she turned around and went, "When you're in the Champions League."
Yeah, you've told me that story. I think that was on a Wednesday night. Yeah,
when you're in the Champions League. And that was just my favourite stories. But they've got a lot of, ambition, and you've got to give them fair play to that.
Right. How many years do you think it's going to take them, though, to win a trophy? Because I think in terms of the league, I think they're still a bit off the pace, and I think it may take a couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they're in a good shout with the Conti. They're doing really well in their group, so they're in a good shout with that. It's just, how they all handle the pressure in cup games.
And another massive talking point that I've actually forgot, I've just remembered, is Lee. I think it was Lee Birch, London Bees manager. He wasn't too happy with the fact that Championship sides have to play their Conti Cup group games in midweek. What do you make of that? Do you agree with it, or do you think
I'm with him completely? I am with him completely. I can't remember if it was the Conti or the FA Cup, but again, I went to see Man City because it was a midweek game and I could get to it because I wasn't travelling. And they were playing Sheffield, and Sheffield had asked if the kickoff time could be moved half an hour because most of their squad was in full-time work and wouldn't be able to make a 7 o'clock kickoff. And Man City said, "No, you've agreed a 7 o'clock kickoff. That's what we're having." And it meant they had to put out their youth team plus literally the average age of the player was 19.
Bloody hell.
They had an experienced goalkeeper who's now gone on to Birmingham City in Alex Brooks. And that's not fair. Like, you've already got a handicap in the fact that you're going up against Man City, who are one of the best teams in the league. To then not be able to bring your best players because of a scheduling conflict is not fair. Like, we're lucky that 3 teams have gone full-time this season in the Championship, but it's not going to happen to all teams, and it's not going to happen for a while. So I'm absolutely with Lee Bird that we shouldn't have midweek Conti Cup fixtures. There is enough weekends in the year we could play Conti Cup fixtures on a weekend.
Well, yeah, a massive factor as well is we don't start our season normally until the first week in September, which is normally when everybody goes back to, well, pretty much the 6 weeks holiday finish. Yeah. The first week everybody comes back from that, we start. So I think it was it last season where we played Lewis and Millwall at home in the last 2 weeks of August.
Yeah.
And we went into our league fixtures. And I feel like that works really well because it actually also helps the teams going into leagues in the fact that they've already been playing competitive football for 2 weeks.
Well, that's it, because I remember last season, my first game was Arsenal in a Conti Cup fixture, and that was in August. So I don't know why we've delayed it so much. Because we've been pre-season. I mean, it might have been the World Cup, but...
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that was mainly due to the World Cup. But there was another interesting factor on, I think it's the offside rule. They have an FAWSL podcast.
Yeah.
And Casey Stoney was on it. And she said if the Championship sides have to play midweek like they've scheduled it this year, then there should be a rule saying that teams like us, Manchester United and Arsenal should have to go to them because we're professional.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a really good suggestion, because it does, like you said, we're professional. We don't have to work out time off work. We don't have to work those things out. So yeah, it would be, and also it would be a bigger boost for their fans. Can you imagine? Like, I mean, granted, it was enough of a neck ache to get down to Rush Green last Wednesday from me, but can you imagine like Lewis getting all of their fans? There was like a Lewis fan there on Wednesday.
Well, yeah, there was a bit of a dispute on Twitter as well, because I think it was the referee that actually refused to delay the kickoff time, because Lewis's team didn't actually get there until half hour before kickoff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which I'll send you the tweet, which is actually, you know, embarrassing. We should have delayed the kickoff. It could have risked injuries. But not only that, like it's pretty much exactly like what Casey said. If we had to go to them, that sort of trouble wouldn't happen.
No, of course not. And so for once, I actually agree with Casey Stoney, and I think that's a brilliant idea. It's true though, because you're right. We are professional. We should be going to them to make it easier on them. So, like for example, the Man City game I gave you, they should have gone to Sheffield, because it would have made Sheffield's life easier, because it means they weren't trying to travel up Snakes Pass on rush hour to play Man City. Give themselves every advantage we can give them.
And well, on to my next talking point. Ali, I want to hear your opinion on this, because this was another thing they discussed on the Offside Rule podcast, which was actually really interesting. This Friday marks the first ever FAWSL game to be played on a Friday night. What do you make of Friday night football in the WSL?
Well, I'm partly with it, because I think, you know, if we can spread the games out, it means more people can go to different games. But then on the other side, for example, that can mean more time off for people. That can mean it makes it harder. And I'm going to hold judgment until I see what the attendance figures are for that game next week. Because if we can keep a similar attendance, then great, I'm all for it, because it spreads it out a bit more. Like, we're supposed to have a big weekend of football a couple of weekends ago. All the games were played on Sunday. That wasn't exactly a weekend, was it? Even the championship games were played on Sunday. That's not a weekend, that's a day. So
I completely agree with you with that, because I think the way they should have scheduled it with Women's Football Weekend is actually put the championship games on a Saturday, because they were really advertising the fact of your local club.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, so just for example's sake, Charlton, if they had a home game on that Saturday, a lot of the West Ham fans, that second team is Charlton, would have gone over and boosted that attendance. So I feel like maybe looking ahead to next year's one, maybe championship games on a Saturday, and then us on a Sunday, sorry, the FAWSL on a Sunday, with also, like they did this year, big fixtures, is the way forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm completely on board with that one, that's what you've got to do. Speaking of fixtures, and I promise to our loyal fans, we will shut up in a minute. Did you see the fixtures for this Sunday? So, like, the attendances. So we had over 1,000 people at ours, nearly 40.
Oh, is it? Are you going to make the point of Everton only having 150?
Yeah. So we had, like, on average, it was average thing was about 1,700. A couple had a bit less, a couple had a bit more. Everton had 150. Now, I know Southport is not the easiest place to get to. I've done it myself. It's actually pretty easy for me because it's like 2 train rides. Though it did take me as long as it takes me to get to London, but that's not the point. It isn't the easiest of grounds to get to, but it is an embarrassment that a footballing city such as Liverpool, that's got 2 of the big teams in the country, with Everton, who are on an unpredicted hot streak at the moment, being 4th in the league. I actually had them down to be relegated this season, so the fact that they've gone up to 4th in the league, it's embarrassing they haven't got something that's nearer to Liverpool itself. I know they're looking to move, and I think they're moving thing, but 150, that's from going from 26,000 odd at Anfield down to 150. That's just, yeah.
And I can't understand that either, because where their men's side, they ain't on the greatest run of form. The women are doing so well that surely their fans are getting excited about the women's team when they're going over. But I think Everton are moving closer into Liverpool next season, so it'll be interesting to see mainly that fixture next year, what attendance that will get as they're going in mainly into the city, because I think that's something we actually do really well, that we pretty much are in the heart of East London, and we're actually only 20 minutes away from the bowling ground, really. So I think
absolutely.
What we attract as well is a lot of the fans that haven't joined the men's team on the move to the London Stadium still support West Ham, and it's a chance to actually go and watch some football.
I think the biggest upside we've got is we actually own our ground. We're one of the few clubs, I think, Man City, and that's about it, that actually. Oh, and Chelsea have just bought AFC Wimbledon's ground, so AFC Wimbledon will be moving, and it will become Chelsea's youth and women's thing. But we're one of the few that actually owns our ground, which is rather than ground sharing with other leagues, as in like Arsenal do, Tottenham do.
I think as well, going ahead in the future with the fact that we own our ground, is I'd really like to see our FAWSL Academy games.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them at Rush Green, and maybe make a compliment, maybe something like £2 a ticket for season ticket holders to go in. I'm sure some season ticket holders will go and watch, and that also improves the funding for the academy. So I think that's the next step for us. But that leads me on to the next topic, is that with Jack Sullivan and I think it was Russell, they've actually announced a supporters board, which
Yeah, that's
you'll
news.
you'll be joining, and I think that's a brilliant idea, because I think something we've lacked is communication between supporters, and the people on the board, and I feel like this could also not only improve home match day experiences, but also away, because I think maybe this could actually start to produce things like away coaches. I think Chelsea, they have an away minibus that they use regularly, so I feel this is a step in the right direction.
All we've ever asked for is transparency, and that's something I think this board is going to give us. Like, even if it's just little things like knowing who's injured, like knowing why a certain player, like I had to find out from a player's dad that the reason Cho's not playing is because she's done her ankle in. Like, but we don't know that. I had to find that out from someone else. You know, it's just that transparency. Little John, for example, why is she not playing for us? Is she not eligible? Was she given special permission to play against Reading? Like, what's going on?
Well, when you mentioned on Wednesday that she wasn't in the team, I actually looked on our program and she isn't even on there. So I seriously don't know what's going on.
Exactly, and that's what I'm hoping this board is going to do. Is going to encourage the club to be a bit more transparent. We're not asking for you to give away trade secrets. We're not asking for you to announce all of the signings right now. We're just asking for that little bit of transparency so the fans know what is going on. Right. But finally, we are shutting up in a minute, I promise. Finally, our player spotlight, which, speaking of the academy, is our youth player. I'm going to let you say her name because it's a bit like Jacinta. I haven't got a clue. Let's talk about who we're spotlighting this week.
So this week, we're spotlighting one of our breakthrough players this year. I remember when she lit up the pre-season friendly against Tottenham, Victoria Kiss.
There we go.
Ali, I'm going to get a job soon in announcing names due to the back end of this show. Well, what do you make of Victoria?
I think she's been fantastic. She has been an absolute diamond of a player. We haven't quite utilised her yet, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what more she can do. She was the only shining light in a dire game against Man City. She came very close to scoring at the very end. She was very unlucky that it hit the post, and Rose managed to gather. She's changed the way we played against Tottenham, which led us to draw the Conti Cup game 2-2. She's just been an absolute breath of fresh air for our team.
I think as well with Victoria, she hasn't only came into the team, but she's really at times made statements to start more regularly in league games. And I think the next step for her will be that. I think she's going to be the player that maybe replaces one of our main attacking players if they depart. And one thing that I was surprised with on a Wednesday night is when she went into that centre forward role, I thought maybe that's a bit risky. It's not her main position, but she really did hold the ball up well. She brought our wingers into attack really well, and I actually think next year she'll break in to the first team as a regular, because I think she's a fantastic player. Absolutely,
I'm excited to see what she can do. Right, this is it. We are done now for this week. This has been a very long episode, but after that Reading match, we had a lot to talk about. My final thing is, it's almost Christmas. You stumped about what you can buy your friends and family. Well, head over to the American Hammers TV store. There is a lot of merchandise over there, including a bunch of t-shirts, hoodies, everything else for our show as well. You can wear one, confuse your friends, be an ultimate hipster when they don't know what you're wearing. But head over to the American Hammers TV shop now and have a look at all the different stuff. It is absolutely awesome. Thank you again, Alex, for designing us a logo and also it looks really epic. That's enough from us this week. We will be back next week talking about the Man United game, previewing the Liverpool game, and talking about who we thought was our player of November. It's good night from me.
And good night from me.
Good night, guys.